do not stop writing. Do not push writing away because you don't feel good enough, because you think you don't deserve it, because you think other people are better than you. Just write for you, because the longer you push your writing away, the more you will regret it. This is the Writer's Mindset Podcast,
formerly called the Writer's Cookbook Podcast.
With me, Kristina Adams.
And me, Ellie Betts.
We're here to inspire and motivate you to overcome the roadblocks holding you back in your writing career.
With some tough love, some hard truths, and serious reality checks.
Let's get started. Shout out to our new patrons, Alexa Whitewolf, Stuart Page, and Bill Lowe.
You can support the Writer's Mindset over on Patreon for less than your favourite coffee a month. If you join our community, you'll get access to bonus episodes, exclusive discounts, and much more.
And we'll be eternally grateful for your support.
Yes, as will Frankie and Millie for the extra pet treats we'll be able to get for them.
To join our community, visit writerscookbook.com/support. So, how's your writing been going this week then?
There have been new words on the page, that's for sure. I've been in a kind of quandary because I have my Alex Warrington stuff, the urban fantasy that I really want to work on and I'm really excited about and I keep going on and on about, but I have realized that I need to be responsible and make sure I'm working on my dissertation, which, as you know, I'm taking the musical Blood Brothers and I'm changing it into a novel. And modernizing it. So it's interesting, but I don't love it as much as I love my Alex Warrington stuff. So it's a little bit harder to work on.
I totally get that. Like, sometimes you've got to make a choice between kind of desire and duty, if you will.
Exactly. And that's what I've come to this week. Begrudgingly, and with a little bit of kick from my writing friends, just to make me see the light. But, I mean, it's good. I do like the story. I like where it's going, and it's just that little bit harder to get the words on the page because I don't love it quite as much.
Yeah, but at least, like, you're going through this journey of writing something still, and you've got a hard deadline for it, right? So then...
Oh, yes. Oh, there's a deadline.
That allows you to have an endpoint in sight, but also it gives you much more time to plan Alex Warrington. So once you do have the time to write it, you're going to write like, I can't even think of a good analogy right now, like a leopard or something. You're going to be so fast to write it because you're going to have such a good plan because you've had all this time to really think through the story.
I'm going to be writing it like Roadrunner. That's what I'm going to be doing.
I like that. I like that
Just
image.
Meep, words. Yeah, I'm looking forward to that. But I think, in a way, once I've finished my other assignment and I finished this dissertation, it's going to feel like a reward, getting to just play with this whole new world that I am slowly sort of adding bricks to on the side, just to be able to jump in and just have some fun with it, I guess. That's what I'm looking forward to. That's my big payoff at the end.
I really like that, using writing as a reward for doing other forms of writing. I think it's actually a really good motivational tool.
I mean, there'll be cookies too. It's not just
obviously.
There'll be maybe some of the vegan chocolate we've been trying as well.
Yes, definitely. I would recommend.
I get the impression, I know you've posted some things this week about not feeling quite 100%. Has your writing taken a little bit of a hit this week? And rightly so. Has it taken a little bit of a hit?
A little bit would be an understatement. I have written less than 2,000 words this week, and usually I aim for 3,000 words a day.
But with good reason.
Well, yeah, I had an asthma attack on Monday and the doctor put me on some steroids. And it's like the second time I've ever been on steroids for my asthma ever. And I've been asthmatic for like 26 odd years now.
Oh, wow. Welcome to the steroids crew. It's not fun.
I know.
You won't enjoy it.
It's racking me. My skin is knackered and I have got so little energy. Like, it's like fibro and chronic fatigue syndrome, but for want of a better way of putting it, on steroids.
Well, that makes sense now.
Yeah.
I see where this saying comes from.
I know what to do when it is caused by fibro and CFS. I have the coping mechanisms, but when I know it's a side effect of medication, those coping mechanisms don't work so well.
No, I suppose not. But equally, the steroids are doing you some good because you need them right now.
Well, yeah, exactly. I can breathe again, and I will take the side effects for 5 days if it means I can breathe again, because I quite like breathing, I'm not gonna lie. But for
Breathing
me,
is surprisingly important.
it is, funnily enough, it is, yeah. I mean, the hardest thing aside from the lack of energy was the fact that it's given me the brain fog back, but it's a different kind of brain fog to what I normally get. Because with Fibro and CFS, it's like I'm driving through fog and the answer I need is on the other side of the fog, but I can't see the end of the fog, right? With this, it is like I am banging my head repeatedly against a brick wall and the answer is on the other side of that brick wall.
But it's a lot harder, yeah. You can't really very difficult to get through a brick wall simply by banging your head on it.
Yeah, which probably is why I end up with eye strain and headaches as well.
So I've been sending you very strict instructions to get lots of rest.
And to be fair, it's not like I have the energy to do anything else at the moment. I've managed to get some client work done this week, but I pretty much reserved all of my energy for the client work. So I did that. And then pretty much the rest of the time, I've been like reading magazines because I didn't have the attention span to read a book and curled up on the sofa with Millie, who is quite a good nurse when she's not sitting on your lungs.
Nurse Westy is adorable. Can I get her one of those little old-fashioned nurse hats?
She doesn't wear hats. She'd probably wear like a dress or a jacket if you got her. She wouldn't wear the hat. She tries to shake them off, but that would look adorable.
Let me see what I can find online.
She has this habit of like finding the place that is the most painful and then sitting on it. So like if you've just finished eating a really big meal or if you really need to pee or something, she will sit on your stomach.
That's quite the skill.
Yeah, or if you have had an asthma attack and your lung capacity is diminished, she will sit on your lungs and it's like, no. And you try and move her off and she becomes like this lead weight. And for an 8-kilo dog, she's remarkably hard to move if she doesn't want to move.
She's trying to remind you, stay here, mother. It's time to rest.
While suffocating me.
I mean, the ends justify the means, right?
Not if she suffocates me before the steroids work. Or in general, actually. Any kind of suffocation by Westy is bad.
It is bad. It is bad. The rest is important. This is what we're talking about. Well, it kind of leads on what we're talking about today.
It does.
Because today we are talking about writing through depression. That was a bad segue, but a segue nonetheless. We have some experiences ourselves with depression, and we know a lot of writers have issues with depression. For instance, on mentalhealth.org.uk, they have outlined some stats that say in 2014, 19.7% of people in the UK aged 16 and over showed symptoms of anxiety or depression, which was an increase from the year before and was higher amongst females than males. It's actually 22.5% in women.
I'd really be intrigued to see how the pandemic's affected that.
It would have definitely had an impact, I think.
Yeah, and I don't think there are stats about it yet.
The other thing to remember is, I know 2014 doesn't sound that long ago, but it's still 7 years, and I think the conversation around depression has opened up a lot more and become a lot less stigmatized in the last 7 years, even in the last 5 or 4 years. I mean, we're constantly getting better at these kind of things.
True.
In 2013, this is mentalhealth.org.uk again, depression was the second leading cause of years lived with a disability worldwide, second only to lower back pain. And in 26 countries, depression was the primary driver of disability.
That's mad. That's fucking mad.
It's a hell of a thing, and it's starting to be taken more seriously, which is the main thing. Depression is actually the predominant mental health problem worldwide, followed by anxiety, schizophrenia, and bipolar disorder. There is also a little article on the Guardian website about how much more prone to depression writers are. They mentioned the writers including Virginia Woolf, Sylvia Plath, Ernest Hemingway, and Sexton and Arthur Koestler, all big writers, actually died from suicide. It is a big, big problem. And they reference a man called Simon Brett, who talks about some of the reasons behind it. Writers spend so many hours sat on their own, on their laptops, or maybe with a pen and pad. And spending that much time alone can worsen it and make your depression worse. So whilst writing is incredibly good for you, most writers I know that feel the need to write feel worse when they can't, you are constantly looking inwards. And when writing and when creating characters, that level of self-examination can, of course, lead to self-doubt. It can be a vicious cycle. He also worries about the fact that a lot of writers are introverted and they're quite quiet people. Would you say your experience of writing so far has been anything like that?
Oh, definitely. I mean, it feels like a little bit of a catch-22 sometimes because you need to be on your own to write. But if you spend too much time in your own head, then I think you end up getting more depressed and more caught up in that kind of cycle of self-hatred and sometimes anxiety as well.
Definitely. It can be. I mean, everyone's different. I will say that. Some people need that time alone. I know I certainly need that time alone sometimes, but there are downsides, definitely.
Yeah, when I first moved to Nottingham, I had a lot of time on my own because I only knew my boyfriend here, didn't have any other friends here. And he was working like 12, 14, 18-hour days. So I was on my own in this new place and I didn't know anyone, didn't know where to go, didn't know about the local writing community, didn't have the confidence to go out and do things on my own. So my anxiety got a lot worse and my depression got a lot worse. And I very rarely did any writing. Most days I would stay in bed maybe until like 3 o'clock in the afternoon and I would get up and shower and be just about looking human by the time my boyfriend got home from work. Even though I'd been at home all day, I hadn't done anything around the house. I hadn't put dinner on. I make myself sound like a housewife, but I wasn't doing anything useful or productive for him or for me or for our relationship, for our house, you know. I was literally spending all day watching Netflix or staying up late at night talking to my friends in Australia, you know, just to feel connected to someone.
Yeah, that sounds horrible. I mean, being isolated like that is not fun.
Yeah, and it's
Um,
like a lot of it was kind of my own making because I could have put myself out there and met people sooner, but you know, I was in this black hole and I couldn't see a way out.
so what was it that changed then? Was there a catalyst to sort of turning it around for yourself?
I think for me, the really main thing that turned it around was when I did the MA, the one that you're doing now. And, you know, I finally did stuff outside of my comfort zone. I felt productive again. I was working towards something. I made some really good friends that I'm still friends with now. And as part of that, we put together an anthology. And that anthology really gave me a taste for publishing and it renewed my love of public speaking. And when it kind of came to its natural end of like promoting it and selling all the copies that we'd got, I didn't want it to end. After I did the MA, I already had this idea that I wanted to publish. People have been saying to me for years, publish it, more people will want to read it. I kind of had this internal war of, you know, people were asking it of me. And I knew deep down that it was the idea I wanted to release first. But my self-doubt was going, it's not good enough. And I had to kind of work out where the line was of me being too harsh on myself and being objective about my own ideas.
It's hard when you're in a particularly depressive period. I know I myself definitely struggle from that self-doubt, that voice in the back of your head telling you it's not good enough or it isn't right or it's never going to be or you can't do it. It's hard.
Yeah, and so it was a bit of a rough year for me after the MA. My nan had a stroke and needed major surgery, and that, you know, was a bit of a reminder for me that life is short. And so I set myself a deadline that I would write, edit, and publish What Happens in New York in a year. So I did it all whilst working full time and moving house.
Which is a hell of a feat, I must say.
Thank you. I will tell you one thing that really helped. When we first moved into this place, we had no TV and we had no internet. So my two biggest sources of distraction were completely gone. I could have like kept putting in Castle DVDs into the PlayStation to watch them, but I was too lazy to get up every 4 episodes and keep changing things. So it felt like I was out of excuses to not write. It took away all of those excuses because I literally had nothing else except work. And who wants to come home from work and think about work unless you're a massive workaholic?
No, not me.
Exactly. I remember like sitting on the floor of our flat the day we moved out, downloading Scrivener onto my laptop, begging the internet to do it quickly enough while my boyfriend finished packing things up. And then I got into a habit of writing 1,000 words a day. And I really developed this tunnel vision that I was going to do this and I was going to release the book on the 26th of May, 2016. And I did. And everyone was like, oh my God, that's amazing. And trying to like give me a round of applause and pat me on the back. And my depression actually got worse after I published it.
It got worse. That's so interesting. Why do you think, what was it that made your depression go downhill after you finally achieve what you were working towards?
It's a really hard thing to explain, but publishing your first book is a massive anticlimax because you psych yourself up and you build it up and you hype yourself up and you think like there's this massive misconception that it's the be all and end all and your life's going to change when you publish this one book. But it never happens the way that you think it will. It becomes a bit of a grieving period because you spent so long working on this project. For me, it was a case of 8 years I've been working on this one book.
Wow, 8 years, damn.
Yeah. So I was like trying to let go of something I'd been holding on to for a long time and releasing it into the world. And it was scary unleashing it onto the world and not knowing what other people were going to say, how they were going to respond and stuff. But also because it was my first book and there was no point me doing much marketing and I didn't really know how to market it, there wasn't that much uptake. I did get downloads. I didn't get enough to really change my life. There were some months I didn't get any downloads and things didn't really pick up until a few years later.
Which is normal. I think it's important for people to know that's normal.
Yeah,
isn't
totally.
it? But obviously that didn't stop you writing, did it?
No, well, I mean, I kind of took a bit of a break and I slowed down working on what happens in London a little bit. And I've talked in the past about when I tried to do NaNoWriMo. I did a romance and crime novel and I nearly quit writing altogether because of that. You know, I spent some time after that to focus on my marketing skills instead. And if I hadn't taken that time to focus on my marketing skills, I don't think I'd be here now. I think I would be doing some very, very different things.
That's interesting that marketing was the thing that brought you back. Why do you think it was that was the catalyst?
Well, it was something that I needed anyway to improve as a writer, but it was detached enough that I wasn't thinking about my characters and stories and stuff. And also it helped with my day job and it helped with the writer's cookbook and it was all transferable skills for my book as well. So it wasn't like I was abandoning it. I was building on stuff that I needed to know to make my lifelong goal a success.
That's good. So marketing helped to pull you back to writing, so to speak.
I don't think it did it directly, but it allowed me to keep one foot in the door and not abandon it completely. With NaNoWriMo, it was just a case of I was trying too hard to fit someone else's mold, someone else's idea of how a story should be told and where it should be written, when it should be written, you know. It's not that I can't write a book in a month, I can write a book in a week. The problem was because I was doing it under someone else's restrictions, not my own, it ended up becoming counterproductive because like I was trying to prove something, but I'm not sure what I was trying to prove or to who.
Are you suggesting that you don't like being told what to do, Kristina? Because that doesn't sound like you at all.
I would never imply that at all. I don't know what you're talking about.
You are your own woman, and I love that about you. Aside from the restrictions and dictatorship of NaNoWriMo, then, deadlines in a way can be good, I think. They can keep us focused, right?
Oh, totally. I think there's a lot to be said about them. Like that 26th of May deadline that I set myself really helped to keep me on track for working on what happens in New York. But they have to be internal deadlines that you set yourself that other people hold you accountable for rather than someone dictating them to you and saying you've got to do it for X, Y, and Z. Because if you've got no internal motivation, no, I hate this phrase, but I can't think of a better way of putting it, no skin in the game, then you are less motivated to work towards that goal.
Of course, you can't just be told you need to do something. You need to know the why as well. You need to have your own why and your own reasons for
you need to care about it.
Yeah, you need to give a crap.
Yeah.
So let's fast forward then to 2019. Tell me a little bit more about what happened then, because I know it wasn't it was a good and bad year for you.
It was the weirdest year, honestly, because in the February of 2019, my nan passed away. At the time when she had passed away, I had big plans that year. I wanted to publish 4 or 5 books that year, and I had a couple almost ready to go. And, you know, I kind of had this internal dilemma. Do I just stop because I'm grieving, or do I channel this grief into doing something productive? And I just got my nan's voice in my head going, you absolute ninny, just get on with it.
I love that. I love that you know she would be calling you a ninny.
It would either be a ninny or a nana. She didn't say banana, she said nana.
That's adorable.
And she would have done. She'd be like, I'm not worth all this fuss. Do what you need to do for you. And so I kept going.
So it was obviously helpful to think of her like that then, to think of her telling you to get on with it.
Yeah, I mean, this is the woman who threatened to kick me out of the front door and lock it behind me when I wouldn't leave the house once. So, yeah, it was kind of like an internal version of that almost.
I like it. So in a way, you kind of, you know, for want of a better phrase, channeled your grief.
That's exactly what I did. All this kind of pent up emotion that was floating around in my head, I really put into my books. Like in some cases, literally, in What Happens in Paphos, Holly deals with her own grief, and I really projected onto my character in that. But it was also, and there was two sides to it, because I was grieving from Nan, but also when I finished Paphos, I was actually grieving finishing this series that by that point I'd been working on for 11 years. So I was saying goodbye to characters that I knew as well as I knew myself and Nan.
It's a huge achievement to finish the series. It must have felt like a weight off, I guess, in a way, but also like a big loss.
Yeah, it was one of those things, like, obviously, because I've been working on it for so long, I was ready to move on. Not, like, because I didn't love the characters or anything, but just because, it does get to a point where sometimes you've either outgrown something or you want to try something different. It's like when you wear the same item of clothing every day, you eventually get bored of it, right?
Sure, yeah, let's pretend I'm not wearing the same t-shirt that I've had for years.
Okay, maybe that's a bad example. But, you get bored of things if you do the same thing over and over. If you're stuck in the
You
same
do.
world all the time, it's why people like to travel. It's why people get stir crazy.
Was finishing the end of What Happens in Paphos as hard hitting as finishing What Happens in New York for that first time? Was the experience similar?
Actually, no, because by that point I had published 5 books in that series, and I think 2 non-fiction books and then 1 spin-off. So I was more prepared for it, so it didn't get to me as much. And also I pretty much went straight from finishing What Happens in Paphos to writing Hollywood Gossip, which is the spin-off series I'm working on now. I had that time, but I was so ready to move on and really prioritize my writing career that I didn't have that need almost to grieve as much. Like the process sped up a little bit because I'd been through it so many times. Then, like, not long after I finished What Happens in Paphos, my fibromyalgia flared up. So again, I didn't even have the brain space to really dwell on stuff like that.
I guess then when you were writing What Happens in Paphos and channeling that grief, it was almost like a very elaborate expressive writing exercise.
It wasn't consciously an expressive writing exercise, but I think in a way it probably was. And, it definitely helped me deal with what I was going through, because a lot of the anger I was ruminating on, I really channeled into what Holly was going through.
Did you do anything to help with your depression during that time? Obviously, there was a lot going on. You were grieving your nan. You were feeling the pressure of finishing the series. I imagine there's a lot of things there that could have triggered your depression. Were you doing anything to try and help with that at the time?
Not really, no. My main focus at the time was my fibro flare-up, because I was just in so much pain and that it was really hard to function. And I was so tired, I was falling asleep on the sofa when I'd done nothing all day. But, I found a treatment program for my chronic pain, and that also helped with my mental health conditions. And that's how I found expressive writing. Expressive writing really showed me the extent to which we as humans bottle things up, because holy shit, we bottle up a lot and don't know we're doing it.
We do. Sometimes we do know we're doing it as well. That's the issue. But yes, we bottle a lot of stuff up. So if you were to meet one of our lovely listeners here today and they were saying that they were feeling depressed, what would be your advice to them?
I would say really go easy on yourself. And something I've noticed is that healing is not a linear process. To tie it back into my asthma that we mentioned at the start, my peak flow, which measures my lung capacity basically, has been going up and down over the last few days. And it's kind of if you look at it on the individual picture, it's not that nice to see. But if you look at the bigger picture, it is an upward curve, but it is a slow upward curve. And healing from any sort of mental health condition is the exact same thing. Some days you are going to have a greater tolerance, a greater capacity. You're going to feel more comfortable being kind to yourself. But being kind to yourself is really, really important, whether it is going for a bath and reading a book, whether it's lighting a candle and with a smell that makes you happy, whether it's getting some fresh air when you take the dog for a walk, baking your favorite cake, or taking that time to cook your favorite meal. Whatever it is, those small gestures of kindness towards yourself make a really big difference, because it shows you that you value you.
I like that. That's such a lovely way of looking at it.
Thank you. The other thing I think I would say is to not hide from the people and things that you love. I know that when I first moved to Nottingham and I was feeling shitty, I didn't really write. And when I did write, there was a 90% chance I wouldn't save it. I would immediately dismiss it as being shite. I really pushed away that thing that actually could have helped me. And I think that's why I was so keen to call this episode Writing Through Depression, because it is all too easy to push writing away when you feel depressed. But if you really channel that depressive energy into your writing, what you write can be very, very powerful.
Definitely. I am terrible for shutting myself off when I'm feeling particularly shitty. And over the last few months, I found trying to talk about it more and trying to be a little more open with the ones that I trust has been wildly beneficial. I can't even tell you how much it's helped. So I would
Scary though, isn't
definitely
it?
back that. It is scary, and it's when you've dealt with it for so long, when the only way you've been able to deal with it is by burying your head in the sand. That's what you're used to. That's your coping mechanism to get through, or at least it is for me. And so learning to be a bit more open about it, learning, finding someone that you do trust and learning to open up to them, even if it's just for a small thing, saying, I'm feeling particularly rubbish today, my depression is kicking my ass, and the other person just says, that's really shit, I'm sorry to hear that, let me know what you need. Just having that very small thing can make the world of difference. And it goes anywhere from that to literally pouring your heart out, which sometimes helps too. It depends what you need and where you're at. But that is invaluable. If you've got friends that you can do that with, do not take them for granted.
No, definitely. And, I think there's a lot to be said for friends who are just there to listen as well.
Absolutely. You don't need some friends, some people anyway. When you tell them something, they'll try and fix it. You can't fix depression like that. It's not a quick fix.
No, I mean, I will put my hand up. I'm a fixer and I'm really bad for trying to fix things all the time. Something I'm really trying to work on is not reacting and just letting people tell me what they need and get it out of whatever they're feeling out of their system. And then I can be like, what do you need from me? And maybe they say, I just needed someone to listen. Thank you. Or maybe they're like, I need you to bake me a cake, whatever it is.
It can heal all. That's what I'm saying.
Exactly. And Starbucks. I'm good. We can't have more Starbucks.
Soon. Don't worry.
Soon.
So what would you say not to do then to anyone who is feeling rather rubbish? What would they be best to avoid?
Don't stop writing. I beg you, do not stop writing. Do not push writing away because you don't feel good enough, because you think you don't deserve it, because you think other people are better than you. Just write for you, because the longer you push your writing away, the more you will regret it and the more you will feed that self-hatred as well, because that's what depression wants. It is like a parasite eating into your willpower and your confidence and your life in general. And so by pushing away the people and things you love, even though it is easier to do it, you just let it win. And unfortunately, the best way to deal with depression is to fight it. And maybe you fight it by medication, maybe you fight it through therapy, maybe you find ways to deal with it yourself by expressive writing or meditation or beating the shit out of inanimate objects in a safe place. Whatever it is, you need some sort of outlet for that pain that you are in, because there is always a reason you are in that pain, whether it is a reason from recent times or it's a reason from 20 years ago. Depression doesn't care. It will come and hit you in the face whenever it wants to. It doesn't need a trigger that is immediate. It could be a trigger from when you were 3 years old and you don't realize it because it's been suppressed so hard.
So finding an outlet for it, like through the many, many ways you just mentioned, it stops you bottling it up, which is going to be more damaging to yourself in the long run.
Exactly.
If we are feeling that low and if we have no energy and no willpower, how are we supposed to write?
Don't make it really big and terrifying and give yourself something lofty to do. Don't assume that you're going to write the next great British, American, Australian, whatever your country is novel. Just, say, I am going to write a few sentences on this page. 5 minutes is fine. Writing shit is fine. Treating it like a diary entry, a news article, write from the point of view of your dog, whatever it is, just write something. Just get out of your own head or get what is in your head out of it. Whatever you need to do to feel productive and to feel a release.
I suppose even if you end up writing 2 sentences and it's just about a silly cat, it's still writing. And the next day when you come to it again, at least you did those 2 sentences, And you're going to feel in a stronger position. Even if it's only like 1% stronger, you will feel stronger.
One of our friends, Gareth Baker, refers to it as the writer's gym. And the more you exercise at the gym, the stronger your writing muscles get. And this is 100% true. Like, even I found if I go long periods of time without writing stuff and I'm editing for absolutely ages, there are some days that I will then only be able to write like 200 words because I'm so not used to writing anymore. But then after a little bit of practice, I can go up and I can write 5,000 plus words in a day because I've rebuilt those muscles. It's no different than if you are, actually trying to exercise, and you've got to start slowly, maybe by doing some stretches, maybe with a lighter weight, maybe by not running as fast. And the more you do it, the heavier the weights you can lift and the faster you can run. But it does take time. And instead of focusing on those big lofty goals, it's much easier to go, okay, today I am just going to do this really short thing and I'm just going to do it for me.
Absolutely. One of the things we started doing is our little word count tracker. I don't know if it's for everyone to track the amount of words they do every day, but we found it beneficial. And what I've noticed with my words is once I started making sure I was doing something every day. The first couple of days I did like 200 or 300 words or 300 or 400 words, but at the end of last week, I think I did 1,700 words one day. And that's just over I think it was over a week or so. Just stretching those muscles again made it easier for me to start writing more words again, just picking up the weights again, so to speak, the metaphorical weights. My brain went, oh, wait, I know how to do this. Oh, wait, I really like doing this. Let's do more of this.
Yeah, and I think
able to get more done.
Yeah, having it tracked in Scrivener I find helpful, but there is something to be said for actively tracking it in a spreadsheet as well. It's not just the accountability, although I find like sharing my word count with you really helpful, but I think actively writing it down and seeing the stats of like what your word per hour is, for example, and watching that increase over time, I think that really helps because it's a lot more active than if you're just passively checking your Scrivener stats every day.
Yeah, and having it separate as well, because you might not always write in Scrivener. You might write in different places. You might write some stuff in Word. You might write some stuff in a Google Doc. There's plenty of things to consider, and having it all tracked in one place is very beneficial so far.
I think all this mental health talk leads nicely onto our book of the week discussion, don't you?
Book of the week.
So my book of the week this week is Queenie by Candice Carty-Williams, and I finished this recently, and it was just, honestly, the way she describes mental health issues, it spoke to me on such a deep level, probably more than anything else I've ever read, because
wow, that sounds interesting.
I don't want to go into too much details because I'll spoil it, but there's just this scene where she talks about how she feels, and it's like a page of her talking about her mental health issues, and it was just one of those holy shit moments, when something's just so powerful and you just need to pause for a minute and process it. It's funny because like everyone's experiences of mental health conditions are different, but sometimes you find a writer who expresses it in such a personal yet universal way that it is a real mic drop moment, and you almost want to bow down to that writer for how bloody good it is.
Yeah, the universality of it.
Yeah,
it's hard to nail, and it's definitely a sign of a very good writer, in my opinion, who can nail something so vastly unique in a way that so many people can relate to. That's fantastic. My book of the week is also pretty epic, but in a completely different way.
What is it?
And not quite as on topic. My book of the week is On This Day She by Tanya Hirschman, Ailsa Holland, and Joe Bell. The book is designed to showcase some of the wonderful women who have done fantastic things throughout history, but got overlooked because history was traditionally written by men and only really focused on men. The book, by no means does the book hate men at all. I don't want to, I think that came across wrong. But the book takes each day of the year and details something that a particular cool woman did something cool on that day.
That sounds really inspiring.
It is actually, and it's interesting to go through, and they might seem like small things in the grand scheme of the world, but these women help change the world and frame it and build it into the way the world we've got now. So
small changes can make big differences.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Thanks for joining us. If something we have said has resonated with you, don't feel alone in your thoughts or questions. Come hang out in our free Facebook group. It's a safe place to talk all things writing, mental health, and publishing. You can check it out at writerscookbook.com/Facebook group.
And if you want to hear more from us, don't forget to tap that shiny, shiny subscribe button so that you never miss an episode.
To support the podcast's future so that we can help more writers overcome their creative roadblocks and achieve,
or even exceed,
their writing goals, you can support us on Patreon for less than a coffee a month.
And for that total bargain price, you'll get to request podcast topics and submit your book of the week, nab exclusive discounts on writing courses, and get to listen to bonus episodes.
Visit writerscookbook.com/support if you want to find out more. See you next time.